Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel where today we're going to be talking about the 6 attitudes of high achievers. Now if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the channel. You can do it at the bottom of the screen here and switch on those notifications so you keep up to date with the videos as and when they're released. What exactly do we mean by high achievers? Well, essentially a high achiever is someone who is always pushing themselves just beyond what is capable in terms of their body or their mind. They are always slightly breaking out of their own personal or societal comfort zones. And this is something we'll come back to shortly. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to link to another video which you may have seen, which is all about managing your gremlins, where I talk about breaking out of your comfort zones and listening to that inner voice in your head and not letting it overpower you, and some little strategies for getting through those times when you do hear those voices in your head. So I'm going to pop the link below the video and I invite you to check that out if you haven't done so already. The first attitude of high achievers that we're going to consider is the fact that high achievers make no small plans. Now we hear the fact that big ideas and big plans, and that's a really common attribute of these high achievers, but it's equally important to note that a high achiever will pay equally as much attention to the small choices that they have in their day. These small choices can ultimately have a huge impact on the big ideas and the big plans. So you've really got to make the most of your little choices. For example, what are you going to do today? What can you do today that will ultimately take you one step closer to that financial freedom that you want, that expanding business, that plan that you have, that project that you're working on? Make the choice today that will sow the seed to grow, to become, ultimately, the ambition that you have going forward. And this is certainly something that high achievers pay particular attention to. What are they going to do today when you haven't got anything to do, as well, is equally important to consider. So have a think about that. High achievers make no small plans, but the small choices that they make are equally important and do have a huge impact on those big plans. The second attitude of high achievers that I want to cover is the fact that high achievers are ultimately willing to do what they fear. Now fear is certainly something that we can all relate to, and how many times has this fear, or a fear of something, stopped you from ultimately doing what you want to do? This is something that high achievers recognise, and they acknowledge this, but they also acknowledge the fact that fear really wastes time, it wastes energy, it wastes initiative, and it wastes potential. The other thing to consider is the fact that only about 8% of the things that we fear or we are worried about are real. Everything else is just made up in our heads, or we blow something out of proportion. And that's also really important to consider. The fact that most of the stuff we worry about, or that we are fearful of, will never materialise and will never come true. And ultimately, how do we ever know unless we try it? So one way of tackling the concept of fear is by writing down all the things that you might be fearful of. What is it that you're ultimately worried about? Something going wrong, failing, whatever. Make a note of it. Jot it down so you can actually see it in front of you. And then take each one in turn and look at each one and just think, okay, well, how can I ultimately overcome this? What have I done in the past that shows me that, yeah, I've got this, I've overcome this in the past, there's no reason why I can't overcome this going forward into the future. And work your way through that list until ultimately you've combated all of your fears and you're free then to go out and do what you want to do. The third attitude of high achievers is the fact that high achievers are willing to prepare. So they're going to spend time organising, planning and preparing for events. So taking this preparation one step further, what does that actually involve? What does it entail? Well, essentially they're setting progressively higher goals, and that's nothing new for high achievers. Once they achieve something, there's always something greater that they might focus on, just to push their limits as to what they think is possible. Going back to what I said in the introduction, what's possible in mind and body. They're mastering technical skills, they're building endurance, and on this journey they're gaining that really important thing called confidence. They're enjoying the journey, they're enjoying the ride. It's not just about the destination, but it's about the journey as well, and that's really important to focus on. High achievers get excited about what they are becoming, not just what they have done and what they've achieved. So really enjoy that journey, enjoy the fact that you're expanding, enjoy the fact that you're doing something really positive, and ultimately it's for you. So enjoy it. The fourth attitude of high achievers is the fact that high achievers are willing to risk failure. Now, I've said it, that word that nobody really likes to talk about. Now, I've done a video called the F word, which I'll pop a link at the bottom of this video. Please go check it out if you haven't done so already. But I really deconstruct this myth of failure, and it's well worth a look at, because I just try and present a slightly different view on what failure is and what failure isn't. Ultimately, failure is a result. It may not be the result that you want, but it's still a result. You can tweak things, you can tweak your actions to then get the result that you desire. See failure as a learning experience, which is certainly what high achievers do. It's an opportunity to learn, it's an opportunity to grow, and they know that you may have had the concept failing your way to success. Ultimately, these little setbacks, these little knockbacks, mean that you're on the right track. Keep on going, don't stop. You will get to where you want to be. By learning as you go, by growing as you go, it'll teach you that, okay, that didn't work, so let's tweak that, and then try it again, and eventually you will get there. The fifth attitude of high achievers is the fact that all high achievers are teachable. And what do I mean by this? Well, they accept that they're always on a learning journey. Throughout life, you're constantly learning. You never get to the point where you know it all. And those that accept this ultimately expand their horizons, and they become bigger, better people for it. What high achievers are doing is they're constantly reading, they're researching, they're listening, and they're learning. They're constantly growing. It might be reading a book a week, reading particular research papers, setting a target in terms of how many books you want to read in a year, which might be on personal development, or it might be on breakthroughs in the particular field of expertise of your choice. There's always something new to learn. There's always a slightly different perspective to see things from. And high achievers recognise this, and they're certainly not afraid to dip into something new, try something new, learn something new, and ultimately expand their horizons and grow as a person. The idea of mentorship as well is an interesting one, and people recognise the fact that they need to maybe work with people who are experts in their field, or in their minds are experts in their field, that can help pull them up to the level that they want to be at. And I'll touch on this at the end of the video, but it's an important thing. Mentoring as well. High achievers note that they need to talk with people and be mentored by people who are doing what they want to do, so they can pick up the skills, learn the behaviours that these mentors are exhibiting day to day. That's another way for helping them to learn and helping them to grow. So that's a great one to try out as well. And the final attitude to high achievers that I'm going to be covering today is the fact that high achievers have heart. Now, what do I mean by this? Essentially, it's overcoming the urge to quit when things get a bit tough. In reality, there are going to be moments where you reach blips in the road, little bumps that you have to overcome, because the path to success is not easy. The path to success has its little trials and little tests along the way, but the high achiever knows this and expects this. So the four things I want to mention which show that a high achiever has heart are the following. The first one is courage. So you've got to have the courage to try something new, try something different, tread the pathway that hasn't been trodden before. It's all too easy to follow the crowd, it's all too easy to do what society expects of you. Sometimes you've got to push those boundaries, which means having the courage to do something that is right for you, not that's right for the rest of the world. You've got to think almost selfishly about this. Have the courage to do what's right for you. The second is persistence. Now, you'll probably hear people saying that success doesn't come overnight, and except in very rare circumstances, that's absolutely true. You've got to keep persisting, keep on going, knowing that each tweak you make, each little setback you might receive is ultimately helping you on that path to success, and you will get there. You've got to have that persistence to keep on going. The third is perspective. Now, perspective is a really important one, and our own experiences in life might give us different perspectives. Some people have perspectives which mean that they don't really sweat the small stuff at all. Ultimately, it's about understanding what is of true importance. That is what perspective is. If you know what's truly important, you know what to focus your time and energy on, and you're not going to get bothered or worked up about the small stuff that really doesn't matter. So perspective is a really important attribute there. And the final one related to have heart is purpose. You've got to know your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? If you have a strong enough why, you will go for it and you'll keep going for it. That goal, whatever it is you're after. Purpose is a really important thing. Often why we don't achieve certain things, even though we think we want them, is because we don't actually have a big enough why. What's the actual pull factor that's pulling us towards that goal? So think about it. What's your reason why? You've got your reason why, you've got your purpose. You can fulfill that purpose, and you can ultimately get to where you want to be. So that's in summary the 4 things that make up the attribute of having heart, a high achiever having heart and going for what they want to go for. So wrapping it all up, how do we become high achievers? We can certainly employ some of those attitudes that I've spoken about in this video, and by focusing on each one, you can really start to see little tweaks that you might need to make in your own behaviour. But also a little tip that I'd invite you to do is to think about people in your life now who are in your sphere of influence, or your friendship base, or even people that you admire. It might be a film star, or a celebrity, or somebody that you've seen on the news. Anyone who you think is a high achiever, or who you think displays some of the attitudes I mentioned today, and there may well be more as well, but some of those attitudes that implies that they are a high achiever. Now I want you to notice how they behave. What sort of things do they say? What kind of language do they use? How do they stand? I doubt very much that they're constantly slouching. Look at their physiology. And what we can do is something called modelling. We can look at how they do it, think about what they say, and almost mirror them, almost copy this pattern. And over time you will find that you start taking on some of these attributes and attitudes subconsciously without even thinking about it. Repetition is really important here, and it's something that you should aim to work at. It's not going to happen necessarily overnight, but this goes back to my last point on the 6th attitude of having heart, that of persistence. Keep going with it. Know that you're on the right track, and know that you're on the right track for you. Because if you are, then you definitely cannot go wrong. If you're doing something that's right for you, that is the best way of feeling that completeness. You've got that purpose, you've got that reason why, and you're single-minded enough to go for it. So don't fear it, just go for it, and give it a go. See how it goes. It'd be great to leave some comments below the video, let me know how you're getting on. It'd be really fun to get some dialogue going, and let me know what you thought of the video. But until next time, have a fantastic rest of the day, and thanks again for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Alright, cheers then.